Okay, my name is Jessica Pinsky. I'm the Executive Director of Praxis Fiber Workshop, and I'm here to tell you and all of you about our Natural Indigo program at Praxis. So every year we grow about 1/10 of an acre of natural indigo. We're growing the Japanese species of indigo, which is important because it's different from the African species, which is the bulk of the indigo that's been grown in the United States and has really intense and important history in the United States. But we're growing the Japanese version because we are most similar to the climate of Japan here in Northeast Ohio. So African indigo, which was brought to the United States through slavery, is not compatible with Northeast Ohio temperatures, but it is still being grown in South Carolina and in other places in the South still to this day. So why natural indigo? Because it's far better for the environment. The denim industry as a global phenomenon has done terrible, terrible things to our planet. So this has become kind of like a big environmental importance for us at Praxis, and one of the things we're most passionate about educating. So to harvest the indigo leaves, you grow the plant, it grows to like knee high, you cut it at its stalk, flash dry it in the sun, and separate just the leaves, and it's the leaves themselves that have the dye. So the stalks and stems, they get composted back into the soil. So what you're left with is these like beautiful sort of turquoise leaves. So the next step is to compost them. And so we made this floor. It's basically a 4-foot deep hole in the ground. And it's backfilled with 2 different sizes of gravel, then rice hulls. So we did everything like super traditional. Rice hulls, and then sand, and then clay, so that it would suck the moisture from the compost pile in a really specific rate and for a really specific consistency and evenness. So versus one drain in the center, it would not distribute the water in the same way. So the pile is 400 pounds of these tiny little leaves, so you can imagine how big that is. It was massive, and it took us 3 years to grow that much indigo. And once we did, we piled it high, and then it was a 90-day process to compost it by wetting it every week on the same-ish day and watching the temperature rise and rise and rise. Once a week we would turn the pile and maybe add more water if it was too dry, so that the water was consistent. And we watched the temperature rise to almost 160, 170, 160 degrees. And then after maybe 3/4 of the way through, the temperature dropped, and when it was kind of back to ambient temperature, and we were doing this in the middle of the winter, and when we would turn the pile, it would be like a volcano eruption of steam, and like it was amazing. It was very magical. So then what we're left with is called tsukumo, which is the Japanese word for compost. I think it's specific to indigo, but it just looks like compost. I mean, it doesn't, but it has a really beautiful kind of like ammonia smell. And from there, you're ready to take the tsukumo and turn it into the vat. The vat is, and this is to answer the question that you had earlier about can you divide this vat into other little vats. I think we've actually talked about this before too, Emmy. So about here is the compost. It's 28 pounds. We're operating on a recipe. It's like a quarter bale recipe, basically. So it's in this 55-gallon drum. You start with the compost, and then you basically fill it in with natural lye. And lye is made by pouring boiling water over wood ash, and there are 5 different strengths. So this was the crazy part of this story. So Roland Ricketts, who's this guy in Bloomington, Indiana, who lived in Japan and taught us everything that we know about indigo, he was like, the only way to test the strengths of lye is to taste the lye. And I was like, no. And I was like, there has to be like a pH reader or like some other thing, like tool or a piece of equipment. He was like, you could get those things, but they don't work. The only thing that works is tasting it. And I was like, fine. So we made 5 strengths of lye, and then actually tasted every single one, and the strongest one did like shock me. Yeah, like it was sort of, he was like, it's like licking a car battery. And I was like, no, I don't know actually what that's like at all, because I've never done that before. So about halfway, we poured about half of the lye into the vat, and then we were waiting. What the lye does is it activates the compost and the live bacteria to start fermenting. So it's a live fermentation vat, and it requires the right pH to have that consistent active fermentation. So once the fermentation happens, then the rest of the lye is added, and also lime, which neutralizes or sort of stops the acidity from going too far, skyrocketing down, and then it's basically ready to do. And what the fermentation does is it sucks the oxygen out, it reduces the oxygen out from the liquid. And inside of the liquid, there's no oxygen, and then when you lift the fabric back out from the liquid, the oxygen mixes back in, creating that permanent blue color. So that's it. And I'm giving it a story now. You should probably smell the really intense intense fermentation. If you can't smell it, it's because you're not close enough, but you will soon. And it's pretty strong. It smells really, really, really sweet, and also like a little funky and rotten. And that smell always makes me really happy because it makes me think that it's working. And yeah, that is how it works. So you can see that even on this white pole that it was sort of yellow inside the liquid, and as it mixes with the air, it turns bluer and bluer and bluer, and that's the same thing that happens with your fabric. Like wrapping, doing this kind of a thing. So you want the fabric in there. I'm just dying sort of not the handles, but the bag itself. And you don't want to, so since it's reduced and there's no oxygen, introducing a lot of oxygen would be bad for the vat. So you're not stirring vigorously, you're not trying to add a lot of, do a lot of bubblage, that kind of a thing. But you can move gently back and forth just to make sure that the whole of your fiber has been coated. And then it's like a 2-minute soak. And then just for this first step, I'll just demo. So as you come out, especially if you don't have any clothespins or anything in the way, it's pretty easy to just kind of wring it as you go, so that the bulk of your waist is not being exposed to a lot of extra air. You're not creating a lot of bubbles as you go. And it's not like you have to get every last drip or anything, but then that's just more that you're not wasting or... A baby! Hi, baby! Mommy loves you. Hi. I did a thing. We're doing indigo dyeing.
The smell of that is so crazy. I kept getting so many different whiffs. Yeah, so many different.
Do you kind of like it?
Look at what Mommy made.
I like it better, yeah. Well, like mushroomy over there.
Yes.
And what did Mommy make?
So from here, I'll just hang it, and that's that. And then in 2 more minutes, I'll dip it again. So everybody should do this.
Ben, you fell into the sticky. Yeah.
How are we doing?
Good. How are you guys?
We're great.
Awesome. Good.
We're back to the steps, huh?